23, no epigraph. My early decisions to accept my body were political and hopeful, but the mechanics of living in a world not quite keeping up with my ideals were awkward. I learned how to move through the streets, ignoring stares and jeers. I lived tight and defended. When I was 12, I went on a teen magazine diet. I hung the pages with the menus on the refrigerator. I lost weight. When I was 14, I became worried I was getting fat again. I stopped eating and drank Diet Coke. I lost weight. When I was 16, my mother and I ate plates full of eggs and meat, but no carbohydrates. I drank more Diet Coke. I lost weight. When I was 20, I got pregnant, had an abortion, became infected, ended up in the hospital. The only job I could get was washing dishes. I barely made enough to pay the rent. I ate food off other people's plates before I washed them. I lost weight. When I was 27, I fasted on lemon juice, maple syrup, and cayenne. I lived in an ashram and ate rice and dal. I lost weight. When I was 32, I ate a pineapple before every meal. Something about the enzymes was supposed to make you lose weight. I lost weight. When I was 33, I ran up subway steps and lifted weights and smoked and smoked and smoked. I lost weight. When I was 39, I made shakes from protein powder and took handfuls of vitamins and drank water. I lost weight. All the weight I have now, I have lost and lost and lost. Once when I was walking into a bar with my friend Nancy and two guys were walking out, one turned to the other and said, "Beauty and the Beast." Once I was sitting on a truck in front of a 7-Eleven waiting for a friend. A truck pulled into the parking space next to me. A guy got out and looked into the window and said, "Oh man, I would never fuck that. It would be like Save the Whales." Once I walked past a group of kids at a bus stop. As I passed, one young man said, "Fat, fat, fat." Once when I was in India, I walked past a group of men and one began to shout, "Motomal, Motomal." Once I was on a doctor's table and he said, "I have never had this kind of morbid obesity on my table before." Once I was having surgery, drifting in and out of awareness. I heard someone say, "It's a shame that a person would let her body get this way." The anesthesiologist turned up the gas. Once when I was getting off a bus, the driver said, "So fat." When I was a kid, my name was Patty, Fatty Patty. It was really bad then. So that was a short chapter, so I'm going to read another one. This is 24. The epigraph is Laura Nehru. No one knows the blues like lonely women. I fell into a deep depression. I drank and did cocaine. I sold cocaine to support my habit. I quit working at Dots. People stopped by for drugs. I rarely left the house. I stopped praying. Why bother? I spent hours in the bathtub drinking vodka and Rose's lime. I used a bubble bath that was the same lime green color as the drink. I listened to Billie Holiday and pulled line after line of coke, drawn on a small mirror resting on the side of the tub into my nose. I lit cigarette after cigarette and sang along with Billie Holiday. One day a friend came over and found me passed out in the ice-cold lime green water. I had to decide, could I kill myself? I knew a woman who was driving down to a Babaji ashram in southern Colorado for the weekend. She was a certified rebirther. She had long blonde hair and serene blue eyes. She had a smile that never got too big or too small. It was always there, this not quite a smile. She invited me to go with her. I knew that she thought she was bringing me home to the fold. I wanted to be home. The buildings at this ashram were newly built, wood-framed, and fit right into the aspen-lined mountains in which they sat. When we arrived, the devotees were getting ready for afternoon prayers. We were led up a flight of stairs into a large open room with an altar. There was a picture of Baba and flowers and incense, crystals and Shiva statues. There was a small group of people, all of whom seemed to have the not quite a smile look. Some had shaved heads, some wore the peach-colored saris and robes I'd seen in India. There was a woman who played the harmonium and another playing the tabla. Everyone sang Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya. A third woman walked around with a candle held before us. We drew our hands over the top of the flame and over our heads. The woman playing the drums held my attention. It was obvious that she had just showered. Her hair was very short, as if it had been shaved only a month ago, but it was still glistening with water. She wore a peach sari. She had a girl next door quality, an open, freckled face and sparkling brown eyes. Her smile seemed wider and her joy was palpable. She was the devotee I could never be. I waited until everyone left. I lay prostrate on the ground before the picture of Baba and I prayed. I'll do anything you told me. I'd do anything you told me to do if I only knew what you were telling me. I felt this warm flood of energy move from the top of my head through my body. I had no thoughts. I felt a deep calm. When I finally stood up and went downstairs, there were people making dinner and chatting. I walked out to the car and lit a cigarette. I wasn't a devotee, but I had a relationship with something. I didn't have an altar or a scroll or a guy in India, but I knew I wanted to live. And yet there was something about the shadow world of drugs and depression that suited me. I knew I wouldn't wear peach clothes and not quite smile. Back to Boulder. Every day I woke up, ate breakfast, usually eggs and a bagel. Then about noon, I'd start drinking and doing drugs. Despite my cocaine use, I gained weight. I was the fattest I'd ever been. My body seemed to be clinging to the weight. One day my mother called. She realized that she hadn't been able to talk to her own mother, and she didn't want our relationship to end up that way. But everything we talked about seemed like a minefield. She wasn't interested in a spiritual life that didn't include the Methodist Church. Her mother hadn't allowed anyone to drink or smoke in her presence. My mother smoked cigarettes as a young adult and drank an occasional glass of wine, but she was there to understand my love of bars and lines of white powder on mirrors. She worried about my size, and I resented everything. I need to go back and read that again because I spaced out a little bit. And her mother hadn't allowed anyone to drink or smoke in her presence. My mother smoked cigarettes as a young adult and drank an occasional glass of wine, but she wasn't going to understand my love of bars and lines of white powder on mirrors. She worried about my size, and I resented everything she said about diets or exercise. But we both watched the soap opera Days of Our Lives. There were very good people and very bad people, and some people who were on the fence, so we could argue about them without getting upset. Stefano was so horrible. I think it's Stefano. Stefano was so horrible. Oh, I know. Why can't Marlena see that? I don't know, but I want her to get together with John. John? Oh, no, not John. I don't like John. How can you not like John? He has long hair. Ugh. How can you like John? He has long hair. So we spent an hour every week discussing the characters in the show, and we rebuilt some trust. I asked her to come and visit me without Ken. She came. I kept a jar full of M&Ms at my apartment. They were always around and not forbidden. A bag of M&Ms might last a few weeks. When Mom came, she ate the whole jar in a day. She said she didn't keep candy around because she couldn't control the compulsion to eat it. My mother had quit smoking when I was a child, but when she came to visit me, she smoked with me. We were able to rebuild the intimacy of forbidden excursions to the drugstore for ice cream, cheese crackers, and lemon drink. It was good, but I worried that she'd get diabetes or lung cancer in the space of 1 week, and it would all be my fault. I concealed my depression and drug use from my mother. It seemed safer to keep our conversation on a superficial level. But we took long walks and talked about my father and life in Pittsburgh. We watched Days of Our Life, and we sang our little songs together. And when the time came for her to go, I felt my throat tighten with tears. She said, "I'll call you on Saturday night." And she did. Occasionally, I booked a gig. I recorded Fat Love in a small basement studio. I pitched it to a few producers, and they liked it, but nobody signed me. I did all this with half a heart. A local playwright asked me to audition for a one-act play she had written. Hey, Big Girl was the name of the play. The role I wanted had already been given to a comedian from Denver, Roseanne Barr. I got the other lead. Roseanne and I played sisters who owned a clothing store. There were 3 other characters, all fat women. I was the more controlled sister, worried about my appearance. Roseanne's character made wisecracks and took swings from a champagne bottle full of water through the whole play. There was a birthday party in the play, and our characters were confronting their relationship. It was great to work with Roseanne. It was a musical, and Roseanne couldn't sing. None of us had done much acting. We laughed a lot. The play didn't really reflect my experience of being fat. It was cliche, lots of boas and muumuus on fat women. The opening night of the play, Roseanne overheard the director tell someone she had lost 20 pounds as a result of directing us. When it was over, I had lunch with Roseanne. It was a relief to talk to another fat woman who was not apologizing for her weight. She was bold and funny and committed to her own growth. We decided that we were going to write our own play about being fat, but first she was going to LA to do a set at a club that was known to be a jumping off point for stars. I remember teasing her that she was going to get famous and I'd never hear from her again. In fact, Roseanne's career took off. I tried to call her, but her sister took the message, and I don't know if she ever got them. Messages. From time to time, I thought about writing to her, but it seemed too strange. Her success did remind me that anything could happen, and I felt like I needed to keep trying. I stopped doing cocaine, and I couldn't drink as much without it. I tried to make steps toward a healthier life, like taking vitamins and getting acupuncture. A good friend of mine was in massage school, so I was able to get regular massage. One day I grabbed a pair of pants that hadn't fit for a while off a hanger, and they fit. I wasn't dieting or exercising, but I had lost over 100 pounds. I was more comfortable in my body as a result of all the massage and self-care, but being thinner was a surprise. People had been asking me if I was losing weight. I made jokes about hoping I wasn't because it might be hard for me to find. It might be hard to find. I never wanted to allow the idea that being thinner was better. But the truth was I felt cute. I pulled out my newly fitting pants and walked down the street in a full strut, and a car of young men drove by. One leaned out the window and yelled, "Fatty, fatty, fatty, why don't you lose weight?" Some part of me wanted to call out, "I did lose weight. How much is going to be enough?" I began cooking in a restaurant owned by a friend and moved to a small town just outside of Boulder. My apartment was the entire attic of an old house. There was a fireplace and a skylight. There was a view of the front range from the kitchen. It was a beautiful place to live. The music scene in Boulder was changing. There weren't as many clubs. I knew people who played music, and I still went out to hear them. I decided that being in Boulder was keeping me from growing. I could still put together a band, book a gig, and play, but it wasn't as easy. I had a lot of wonderful friends and a job and a beautiful apartment, but I wasn't growing. I wanted to pursue my singing career seriously. I had spent 15 years in a town that I originally thought I was just visiting. It seemed like everyone in Boulder was between the ages of 25 and 30, white and privileged. Every building seemed like it was receiving a facelift. Larger chain stores were in the improved spaces, and the little shop owners were financially crushed. Boulder was increasingly homogenous. A reporter from a local paper wanted to interview me about what it was like to be the only fat person in Boulder. Many of my friends were married and had children. The days of running from bar to bar to hear music was being replaced by evenings at home with the family. Money spent on getting high was spent on mortgages. I was always attending weddings and baby showers. And the world of professional cooking had changed. There were many more cooking magazines like Gourmet, Food and Wine. There was even a magazine called Chefs, in which there was a centerfold featuring a famous chef fully clothed. Fame changed things. There had always been one or two famous chefs, but with the advent of the magazines, things expanded diametrically. A chef with a certain kind of fame, could demand a 3-figure salary and spend more time on television than in the kitchen. PBS had a show featuring chefs, and there were cooking schools popping up everywhere. There were some things beginning to happen in the culinary world, but you were more likely to connect with these new hot jobs in one of the coasts. New York scared me. I hoped that confronting that fear might shake me out of my lethargy and catalyze growth. Whenever I did music or pursued cooking, I felt I had the run of options. Whether I did music or pursued cooking, I felt that I had run out of options in Boulder. I sold things and worked until I had enough money for a bus ticket. The day I left Boulder, a blanket of fog concealed the mountains. It was as if they were hiding, as if they wouldn't say goodbye. I looked through the rain-covered windows of the Greyhound bus, listening to Katie Lang sing a song about the beauty of western skies on my Walkman. I don't know why I'm so stuttery, but it happens.